before this video starts, I literally just noticed a freaking crane. Or not crane, I think either herring or a crane. Just perched on that rock. Down by the docks. God, that is a beautiful bird. Get closer. I don't know why I'm being quiet, it's just I'm so afraid that they're gonna fly away. God. They're pretty. That's so cool.
Okay, well, good morning. So this will be the final part to what I've now titled Before Leaving the Cottage. God, the last 2 days are really having a lot of sarthic issues with my words. Not feeling the greatest this morning. When I woke up, I had a bit of ataxia issues. Well, I didn't have actual ataxia, which is the neurological term for balance issues. I just had the feeling of ataxia. So I felt not necessarily dizzy, but almost like on the verge of a bout of vertigo. But it didn't end up happening. That could either be my psychosomatic illness, or possibly I may have an infection of the inner ear, or the audiological nerves, or maybe, though it's more unlikely, I could potentially, I guess, have a slight infection of the cerebellum, which is, again, as mentioned in the last videos, the part of the brain back here that controls mainly balance and also has plays a major role in motor functionality. But anyway, it's subsided now for the most part. If it was an infection of the cerebellum, I would probably be, well, it was a major infection, I'd probably be quite disoriented and very, well, here, buddy. If it was something actually going wrong with my cerebellum, I wouldn't be able to walk straight line back and forth, spin properly and back without completely wobbling or falling over. But anyway, I'm not gonna make this one terribly long, or try not to make it terribly long, this last bit, but because also my phone doesn't have much charge, and I also have to go to work in about around a couple of hours. So the last one that I recorded, which I'll have uploaded after this, well, I was gonna make that the last video in this little part of me discussing stuff, but I realized that I never actually fully explained the fact that I've said that I'm departing, at least in the description sections, and briefly mentioned just offhand that after leaving here, I'm going to be heading up to Ottawa, and or Gatineau. But I guess I didn't fully explain what my plan is for how to get there, or what I'll be doing there, which I've already said before in other videos that there's no full-blown reason other than just going and trying to find possible more forms of hope there, or some form of answers to my questions, or some realization of some kind. That would be the reason for going in that direction. And I've also already stated that my end goal, my end destination for all this, or not even, again, not my end destination, but just where basically I get there, then decide what to do from there. So just the direction that I'm heading in is towards Iqaluit, Nunavut, which I've said before, but so that would take me. So okay, I'll just say right now, my route, I guess, for going upward to Iqaluit, first half by vehicle, because, well, I can't get to Baffin's Island, which is where Iqaluit is, by land vehicle, obviously. So my route is as follows right now. Firstly, when I leave here, which will be on the 20th, I'm going to be taking my side-by-side UTV, and after assembling the wagon that I've purchased to carry things with, and also being disguised, or not disguised, but having made my vehicle, and I'm going to be wearing certain things myself to make it look more like a utility vehicle for maybe a farm around here, to keep any issues with law enforcement away from me, or try to. I had the help of a relative of mine for that, but for acquiring the stuff needed to, well, make it look like a farm vehicle. Well, not look like it's used for some sort of local agriculture work, or like just transport in between farms, that sort of thing. But anyway, so once I leave and get going, my my route is going to be, I'm heading up along, I'm mainly going to be taking smaller country roads this time. A lot more different than the rural roads I took coming up here from Toronto. Because initially I left going out through Oshawa, because I had to get some gas, and then went outwards, and I slept in, I believe I mentioned in my Peterborough videos, I slept in a cornfield, or a grazed off cornfield by a golf course in the middle of nowhere, closer to Oshawa, but still in the desolate rural area. I slept there for the night, just in pitch darkness for the most part. I tied up Timmi to a road sign that was right by it, and in the morning I headed out to Stouffville, which is it's a larger town bordering on like a small city almost, but yeah, it's, I think it, municipality wise, it's considered a town, by size at least. And so I stopped in Stouffville for a bit, then headed up towards Uxbridge and stayed with some relatives in Goodwood. Then 2 days later headed out towards, well, I head out towards Port Perry, was originally going to stay there for the day and then sleep there in the night. Didn't end up working because the place I wanted to stay at was closed, and they probably, well, with as I'm pretty sure, again, I mentioned in the Peterborough videos, that stupid motels and hotels only, policy of motels and hotels only taking credit and ID form of a driver's license or a citizenship card. Probably wouldn't have been able to anyway, so then I said screw it and made the rest of the trip along some major roads, but mainly just not very traffic heavy country roads out to Peterborough. But this time, considering I've oh yes, I should have, that's another thing I had to detail. The reason I'm going to be taking this time a lot more more secluded roads, back roads up to Ottawa through a lot of the I believe it's the Trillia Forest. The Boreal Forest, I believe, is further up, but I think it's the Trillia Forest that we're in around this area. Or as I get further up, it'll be going into. But anyway, the reason I'm doing that and why I'm sort of disguising myself as a farm worker for when I get going on the roads is because now, 2 months back, I was taking my side-by-side into work in McCracken's Landing, and I had no issues until one day I bloody well got pulled over by an a disguised police cruiser, which in my firmest opinion, disguised police are literally just pseudo-secret police. Like, in terms of, like, dictatorly secret police. It's ridiculous. I hate the fact that that's legal for police to, or it's part of the system for police to be able to go in disguised cruisers. It's moronic. And even more encroaching. But, anyway, pulled over by police. One of the ones that was talking to me, one of the cops, they were a little domineering, as I'd expect. They were somewhat passive-aggressive, but they weren't majorly disruptive other than, well, what they were doing in terms of, like, physically right there. They weren't really disruptive. Though the dickhead, the more passive-aggressive cop, literally, he comes up to my side-by-side and they put their foot, like, actually, they put their foot on the friggin' front of my front tire, and literally were, like, stretching out on it, like, oh, what you doing out here? You know, these aren't supposed to be on roadways, right? And that pissed me off. But, actually, I beat them out with some logic that actually, yes, legally, ATVs and UTVs are now legally allowed on Canadian roadways. But, you need a license and a helmet and plates, and I don't have, any of that, as of right now. Again, iffy with my morals on the whole licenses now, after giving it more thought over the last few months. Okay, well, I genuinely feel this. For very small vehicles, such as the bike I had, actually, the bike that I had, you didn't need a license for at all, or any sort of registration. But for a golf cart, or a tractor, which is bloody well the most common utility vehicle around the rural areas here, or a UTV or an ATV, a dirt buggy of some kind, a dirt bike, I genuinely feel that they should be legally allowed to go on the sides of roads, which apparently is considered in this county the highway too. So I feel they should be allowed on the sides of roads at least. But, interesting thing though, when I told them about the fact that it is a law now, they said, yeah, it is, but by the bylaw of this county, it's not allowed on highways, and also you need a helmet, license, all that. And but they said that it's not allowed on highways, and by the bylaw, the hilts of the roads are considered the highway. Anything underneath it, like the dirt underneath the pavement, and the pavement is the roadway. So me being on the side there where I was parked, having to pull over for them, would have been another fine if they had chose to give me that. What a idiotic law. So what did you expect me... That is clearly a law that is basically just designed so that people with those small vehicles, who may not have enough money to actually afford a larger vehicle, like, oh, a car, which I don't have the money for, fucking are able to get some transport in the rural areas. So if you're pulled over by police, though, or you have to pull over for an emergency, you're breaking the law by pulling over literally to the side of the road. I felt like saying, well, what did you expect me to do? Did you want me to just stop in the middle of the road so that you could just, well, you could harass me, pretty much? But anyway, they could have given me a lot of fines, but they didn't. They only gave me 2 fines, which add up to around $200, which I did pay off to the city of Peterborough over the phone. And yeah, that wasn't fun. But they basically told me what we really got you on was the helmet, because I didn't have a helmet. Now I do, a proper helmet. And I also have a, as I'm saying, disguised as a utility worker of some kind, or for a farm, possibly, a safety vest, which me and that relative picked up in the city. But ever since then, those months prior, I've been leaving my side-by-side where I have it parked in the village that I'm staying at a very nice, a local around here is very nice. I asked them if it would be fine just to leave it parked here when I'm not using it, and they were like, yep, that's absolutely fine, because, well, long story short, I got into some iffy issues with some owners of a private road back here, and I'm not allowed, where the cottage is situated, it's on a private road, and you're not allowed to bring off-road vehicles onto it, because their insurance doesn't allow for it. I mean, I don't agree with privatized property at all, but talking with the people, I understand, and I shouldn't really have done it in the first place without actually talking to them first. Just being an idiot for that. But anyway, and I did actually apologize to them for that, but anyway, so ever since then, to not take the risk of running into those two cops again, because they were coming from this direction out to McCracken's Landing, yeah, I just, for the last 2 months, haven't ridden it, so going into work, I've either gotten rides from my coworkers, a bit against, well, I still feel guilty for it, or I've hitchhiked when I've been picked up a few times. So that's worked out well enough. Now, I should probably address as well, so I haven't ridden my side-by-side in a while, or at least, well, a couple months, but I'm taking it up the back roads that go up to Ottawa, and I bought a road map, a more updated road map, when I went into Peterborough with one of my coworkers. And I have some old road maps that are from way back in Toronto, from my household, that were just, well, someone had bought long ago, and it's a road map of North America. Well, it's primarily a road maps of just routes in America, in USA, but it does show routes in southern Canada and northern Mexico, so it can be helpful as well. And as well as with the data that I have, and will be once I actually get on the road trying to conserve again, I'll be able to look at Google Maps, hopefully, well, unless I go out of a cell reception area, then, which I have at points around here, where I've lost connection to cell towers, but oh well, that's what the road maps will be for. So I'm basically planning on doing that. Then I will, yeah, once I get closer to Ottawa, I'll either make my way into Ottawa subtly, to where a family friend who I may or may not be staying with, or at least on and off may be staying with while I'm in the city, because they've agreed, they actually want me to stay there, but I may leave my vehicle there, or at a relative's place that's close to Ottawa, in a town close by to it, and then just walk the rest of my supplies into the city, on the highway, I guess. But bottom line is, I'll have to figure that all out once I get closer to Ottawa. Right now, my main goal is just getting through the backwoods up to the Ottawa-Gatineau region. That's really my main goals right now. And then my plan after that is, once I arrive in the city, I'm planning on staying there through the winter months, getting a job again after I have to, leave this one, sadly, because unlike the landscaping job, they are actually seemingly sad to see me go. But they actually valued, like, the work that I was putting in, which I was happy about. And for reference as well, I think I don't think I mentioned it. Well, I think I mentioned in the earlier videos, but I'm so tired still. Because of how I was feeling, I didn't really sleep well, or sleep in very well this morning. But, and also I think I can't fully remember, but I think I had a nightmare last night. I'm working at a restaurant as a line cooking cleaner, well, mainly a cleaner, but I'm basically just whatever they need me to be. So that speaking of which, that'll be coming up soon. And I personally, it's not a passion of mine to be a cook or working in a restaurant. I love working there because of the coworkers that I have. Make it really enjoyable, and I've gotten, like I said, to know one a lot better. I want to maintain, hopefully, a connection or a friendship with them once I get going. But anyway, I'll be sad to depart it. But anyway, so once I get to Ottawa, we'll be looking for a job, or I'll be looking for a job, and yeah, then just, with how my ethics are right now, very skewed, I don't know what job that may be. No clue. But yeah, so then just stay there through the winter. And probably go back and forth between Ottawa and, I'm obviously, while doing that, I'm going to check out and explore the city of Ottawa and also the city of Gatineau, just to, again, see what I may find, realize, come to any sort of conclusion. And then if my route doesn't change at all for where I plan on going after that, I'll be heading up through Quebec, past Gatineau, either close to Laval, the city of Laval, which neighbors Montreal, and then maybe go into Montreal to check it out and see stuff. But I don't think I'm going to actually, depending on how much funds I accumulate while in Ottawa or Gatineau, I may or may not stop and stay in Montreal or Laval for a bit, maybe for like a few days just to see the place, or a couple days, I don't know. But if I have enough to then make it to Quebec City, but if I have enough leaving Ottawa to make it to Quebec City fine enough while conserving my funds, then I'm not going to stop in Laval or Montreal to gain a job. But if I don't, then yes, I probably will. And then whatever happens anyway, after that, moving on to Quebec City, definitely stopping there one way or another, and again, seeing the sights, seeing what I discover in terms of, human life and societal hope, I guess. Again, just seeing what I find, gaining a job. Then after that, which I don't, if it doesn't last into the winter then, which I don't think it'll take me that long to reach Quebec City, once I leave Ottawa, then after that, moving on up to through a long stretch of desolate woodland area. Again, I think the boreal forest, I think it is, upwards into northern Quebec and through on to Labrador, into Labrador City, which is a small city and the biggest city in the mainland part of province of Labrador and Newfoundland. Well, they're a connected province, like governmentally, like a provincial government, but the mainland part is referred to as Labrador, and the island that's off ways on the east coast that looks sort of like a Dorito is the island of Newfoundland. And I'm not going to Newfoundland, so so I'll stop in, and my final mainland destination will ideally be Labrador City. And once I'm there, again, with the funds I have, try and gain a job, try and find housing of some kind, or sleep on the streets if I can. And then what's a relative of mine, because I told this plan to a relative of mine, they suggested that when I'm in Labrador City, I try and call different establishments in Iqaluit, excuse me, to basically see if there's any positions available for work, or at the very least housing, because again, I don't know if my sleeping bag, and though I'm bringing more like warmth protection, like for sleeping once I leave here, I don't know if my sleeping bag is thermally heated enough for Arctic temperatures, or that maybe along the way on my route, on my journey, I may have to purchase a betterly, that I don't think is a word, a more properly thermally heated sleeping bag built for Arctic temperatures. So and once, if I do end up getting a position with someone in Iqaluit, and if not, like getting any calls, I'm still most likely going to go there. I'm going to try and save up enough to gain they have the one-way flights, or small local one-way flights they have local flights to and from Labrador City to Iqaluit. They leave, I think, weekly, just cargo shipments, because, well, Iqaluit is in the very far north. They need a lot of imports because of certain, well, geographical restrictions, that they can't grow certain, like, produce there, and other materials too. It just, they need a lot of imports, and also things are usually more expensive in Iqaluit. But I also mentioned the stupidest thing I ever did video while here, that's financially as well, considering I'm living as a semi-homeless nomad. Iqaluit does have at least as of current, what I know, has the highest minimum wage in all of Canada. I believe right now it's still, like I said, 17 or 18 an hour. And so that would really be helpful. And again, yes, I need to buy necessities, but I'm already trying to conserve enough while I'm on the road. So I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, we'll see what comes. But basically, aside from all that latter half, because that's going to be like a year or so from now. Because if I can help it, and if I can keep the side-by-side that I have now, which I would love, then it'll be coming with me all the way to Labrador. But people are probably asking, and other relatives and friends of mine have asked me, why don't you just say, like, take the train to Ottawa, or train to, or a bus to any of the other places you're going? Well, I did, when I was in Toronto, I did think about that possibility, but the thing is, I don't want to keep having to pay for fares, and with the amount of stuff that I had even leaving Toronto, with what I had initially brought with me, I don't know if it would have been allowed on certain trains or buses. Now, especially now, with all the shit that I have, I can't bring that with me on a train or a bus. And there are things that I paid a lot of money for that can be put to good use that I don't want to waste. That may also defeat the purpose of why I'm out here in the first place, trying to act. If I'm to just taking a quick route up to one place to the next, I don't know what I'll miss. I don't know what may be out here for me to find or discover. I don't know. And I don't want to take the chance of possibly missing some form of, well, help for me or realization for what I'm dealing with. And C, because of this as well, I already have an issue with people. I guess it's more of the independent traits leaning forward. I have an issue with, like, I feel like I'm burdening people by doing that. Even the bus or railway workers with that, the transport workers. I don't know, with my skewed sense of existence and morality, whether I should be burdening them. Whether they should be helping me, whether it's worth it. I don't know. I even have issues, like, it's always in the back of my mind, like, people driving me to and from my work now, or even helping me go get groceries, something as basic as that. I have, though yes, I need to do it to at least keep myself alive right now, I still have issues with it. So I've done, for the last few months, I've pretty well been surviving. And one of my coworkers even brought this up to me when I opened up to them, not the same one, a different one, about the issues that I've been going through and why I'm here in the first place. They said, well, look where you are now. You're surviving on your own, pretty much. And giving myself some props, yeah, I am. Literally, I've primarily, for the most part, done all of this on my own. Other than the shelter here, obviously, and getting certain groceries, and, well, I've paid for all of my stuff. So, there's that. But basically getting up here, going around the local areas, looking for jobs, when I had my vehicles working in working order, getting supplies, food, water, all that, I've been doing all. And as people will say, I don't like this, the whole, for skill sets, at least in certain regards, and also, again, as I talked about with ageism in the last video, mental maturity and just cognitive maturity and intelligence. I don't like saying it. Well, I don't like saying, well, and hey, I'm just 18 years old. It really doesn't matter to me. Again, I feel with certain skill sets and just intellectually, you can be mature in that regard, or at least be very well versed in those regards at any age. It is possible, like, just by scientific understanding of it. But sorry, I'm just always looking at the time because I gotta get going in a bit. So is that? Oh, and also by now I should also mention I now have vehicles. I have a vehicle, my side-by-side, that I'm not just going to ditch. I, again, paid a lot of money for that. A lot of money for that. And also, I also, with my logical sense as well of ethics, I want to be, I realized I want to be transparent with my funds, as if it wasn't apparent by stuff I made in the past about stuff I wanted to do, the whole Yonge Street trek, which didn't end up happening. And what else? Yonge Street. Well, that anyway. I want to be transparent with my funds. So I'm not going to say the exact amount that I have right now, at least. Obviously, again, still skewed on my morality about that. But I'll say right now in my savings account or my bank account, I have between, what's a number I could pick? Between $10,000 and $20,000. I'll say that in between. I'm not going to give an exact amount, but it's in between there. One of them may be dwindling, but anyway. And for those of you also, if there are many like people my age out there saying like, what the fuck? You're not poor, you got loads of money. If you're saying that, you don't have a good concept of money, in my opinion, at all. That is not a lot of money. In terms of if you want it, I could not in Toronto, that money is jack shit. And even in the rural areas, if I wanted to, which I was trying to do, like I said, for when I was initially living with a friend of mine for a week after I left my household, and even before that, looking into it, the possibility of a studio apartment for myself, I could barely even afford that with the funds I have now and even somewhat of what I had accumulated from my original job in the city. Like, I would, with the funds I have now, for certain studio apartments in Toronto, studio apartments, like certain, even in the most lowest infrastructure areas and just bottom barrel of like well-maintained apartments, I could maybe pay like month's rent once and then I'd be flat broke. Because, well, thank you, Canadian government, for the housing crisis. Thank you. And the capitalist dogmas. So, thank you for that. Anyway, so yeah, that's where it's in between that. And I should probably talk about, I didn't really state, okay, no, let me keep on topic for a second. Another reason that I'm not just, it's because people have offered to drive me as well from here up to Ottawa. Not doing that again because if I didn't want to buy the side-by-side if I could help it, I would have loved if, because now I've had 3 vehicles, motorized bicycle, a golf cart, an electric golf cart, and a gas-powered UTV, side-by-side. I would have loved if I could have just kept my bike and it worked perfectly fine and I didn't have any damage to it because of the long distance and bumpy rides, even though it wasn't very bumpy. That one wasn't made for long distances, but it had the perfect thing to hold a sleeping bag on the back of it. I would have loved if it didn't get completely totaled and ruined. And I wouldn't have had to have then bought a Actually, I might have not even needed to buy a golf cart because, well, there would have been side-by-sides that I could have purchased. But I didn't know that a side-by-side was a thing when I bought the golf cart. I literally only learned about UTVs, like what the hell they even were, when I was working with the landscaping company because they had one. It was like a Rhino, Yamaha, whatever, something. It's an adult-sized one. I bought a children's side-by-side. It's still a vehicle, but it's it's puny. It's literally like a clown car, like what you would see in like a traditional like vaudeville circuses. Well, not maybe vaudeville, but like just circuses in general. Like American circuses, the tiny little like prop cars that like 20 clowns can fit in, and it's like an illusion of some kind. And it's like the size of that. I'll show it to you, like, well, I'll record a video actually, because I've decided as well I'm going to be videoing a lot of my actual driving process now, because I didn't when I left the city, because I didn't feel I needed to. I don't need to now, it's just, well, I'd like to also remember, like, because of my blurred memory, like, footage as well, and also would upload it to YouTube for you all to see, and just, yeah, beautiful scenery shots, that type of thing. I'll show you when I get going. Yeah, so I would have loved to have kept my bike, but that didn't end up working, so here we are. Oh, yes, what I should also say in this video, because I completely forgot to in the last 4, thank you so much for 100 subscribers. I know it might sound like not very sincere, but, well, I'm not one for at least these. I've already said that I don't care about how many subscribers I get, like in terms of a popularity craze on it. I don't. I'm happy that, at least logically, I'm happy that now 100 people have wanted to at least watch and take something away from my content. Thank you for it. I am logically grateful for it. I know I'm not, like, again, not getting overly excited over it. I don't want to be very performative with it. Even some of my favorite YouTubers, I think, can get a little too performative with how they show gratitude in certain ways. But thank you. And it was kind of awkward because I actually hit 100 subscriber milestone when I uploaded the pornographer skit, and then I lost it because someone unsubscribed. To the person out there who unsubscribed, thank you for at the very least being subscribed for only a few days. I'm sorry that the content wasn't what you were looking for. I hope you find another YouTuber that is what you're looking for. But thank you nonetheless for those few days of being subscribed. And so it was in an awkward position where I was contemplating, should I say, I was wondering for this one, should I say first as well, say thank you to the 99 who subscribed, because it was just this morning that I reached 100, because I looked and I was like, oh shit, I'm at 100. So thank you for the previous 99 subscribers. Thank all of you for that. And thank you to whoever the 100th was. Never, and I know this might sound cliche, but I really did never think that, especially with how shitty the YouTube algorithm is and everything, YouTube's recommendation system is now for smaller channels in the modern day, I never would have thought that this channel even got, like I said in the description of my leaving Toronto video, more than like 15 or 20. Never would have thought that. So yes, all I can say is just thank you very much. And thank for choosing as well, now that my channel has shifted to whatever this voyage turns out to be. Well, thank you for coming along with me. So yeah, in conclusion, buy G Fuel. No, just, I don't know anything about the product of G Fuel. It might be complete artificial crap, I don't know. Well, so right, obviously you can enjoy artificial crap, like, I eat chips, popcorn, sweets, sugar addiction, That's something I didn't talk about as well. I should probably talk about that more in depth. Well, I mentioned it. Let me see what this is at. Okay, yep. Almost an hour. So should probably talk about, wow, the seas are feisty today. Should probably talk about, as I was going to mention, a fear that I forgot to mention in the last two videos was I have the fear of forgetting things or forgetting people that I love, which related to what I was talking about to dementia. Again, not going to give any context to that. Go watch the other ones if you want to, because I'm too tired to explain it. I had the fear of forgetting people in my life. I used to have the fear of, again, it's more of a histrionic tendency of being forgotten. Not so much in like a worldly sense. I didn't care whether, I don't care, and even then when I had that bit of the fear, I didn't care about popularity or becoming well known in a sense on a broader scale, like my legacy of any kind. I cared about people that I loved in my immediate life forgetting about me or that I existed. And I guess small ways that fear has somewhat come creeping back, like as a creeping thought every once in a while, but it doesn't bother me a whole lot. I'm more so afraid of myself forgetting about the people that I care about and things that I very much value, which, well, relates to all my ethical dilemmas recently and moral dilemmas. But, yeah. And I guess this would make much sense because I talked about how things became so contradicting, and that's why I'm on this journey anyway. As I've said, I'm afraid pretty well, again, of myself and everyone around me and in the world just being a complete walking contradiction, or a severe walking contradiction. Like, again, I knew everyone was hypocritical at points in their life. Nothing can be perfect and some things will be contradictory, but just if everyone was really extremely contradicting to a point of severe problems. So yeah, is that on to sugar addiction. So I was never diagnosed with sugar addiction, but it's very apparent that I have it. And it's not, I don't think mine stems from, because addiction can stem from many things in like the field of, the branch of psychology or psychiatry that deals with addictive behavior is satiety, or at least I believe the name is satiety. But with the whole thing of addiction, it can stem from either things relating to loneliness, boredom, just trying to absolve an encroaching feeling, mainly also relating to loneliness, or it can actually, receptors in the brain, specifically in the striatum, which controls the pleasure zone, or known as the pleasure zone most often, the limbic system, can become heightened to a specific substance or behavior, and you start to form a pattern of desiring it more often. It can actually build up, and the more, if it becomes an addicting behavior for you, the more you use it, it could have less effect, and therefore you try and gain more and more of it to, well, keep the habitual use going and feeding the actual, well, addictive quality, like the desiring qualities of it, basically. With mine, with sugar, like just sweets. What I mean with sugar, like I don't mean like I'm snorting a bunch of sugar. I'm like taking spoonfuls of just pure refined or refined white or brown sugar and just, I'm not. I just, well, then again, depending on what sweets you consider just a bunch of sugar, that's bottom line is, in my opinion, I'm not just literally grabbing like the sugar jar and pouring it into my mouth. That's not what I mean. I believe mine, at least for my own psychoanalysis, it seems to have stemmed from when I was in the abusive relationship with the people in my household, trying to detach myself from it. So maybe in a sense is some sort of alienation, trying to relieve that, but also now that I'm away, I also realize that it's probably more so that I've just developed a heightened desire for it, which is a problem. And I've been trying to work on it, but sadly, every time over the last year of me suffering from it, it seems, every time I try and cut down on the amount of sugar that I'm eating, and I just, okay, no, don't go off on that tangent yet. Every time I cut back on it, it goes like maybe a few weeks, and then I relapse, basically. And that's the only thing I can concretely say I'm addicted to is sugar. And I never used to be. It was only until, well, it was after actually my having a year of maybe it was also because like the desired quality of it came on in more of a heavy full-on force for me, was because, or I adopted more of a craving or desire for it, was because of the starvation for a year. I could barely eat anything, and specifically no sugar at all, like no sweets. I had a sweet tooth when I was younger before that, but it was never to the point, at least what I would consider an addictive behavior. Now, unfortunately, sadly, that's, well, changed. And as I mentioned, I believe in the first video of these, that it does actually hurt me. Like, when my symptoms are bad, like my psychosomatic neurological symptoms, even in the city, when I would eat a lot of sugar, it would make them worse, and I would feel like shit, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I want to stop, because it's making my body feel terrible, and, well, I felt like I couldn't. But let me preface this, because I actually want to say this as well. I see a lot of people do this with addiction specifically. I'm not trying to shame anyone who's addicted to, well, heavily addictive substances. Technically anything can be addictive, but there are ones that are more inclined towards addiction, which those include things such as, to my careers, video games and pornography can be addictive. There are some people in the psychological field of study that are beating around the bush with porn addiction, basically, and calling it problematic porn usage. Yeah, bullshit. That's just a fancy way of saying you're a pornography addict. Don't beat around the bush with that. I'm not trying to shame anyone who's an addict. It's a very severe, debilitating mental disorder addiction is, I consider, a mental disorder that can be destructive to people's lives. But I want to preface that just because you are addicted to something doesn't mean everyone becomes addicted, or that the substance in and of itself is inherently detrimental. Like, sugar is there are natural sugars in food that are needed for our bodies, especially in fruit and certain vegetables, and our nervous system especially as well, and hearts and blood pressure as well, and muscles need stimulation of glucose too, for production of, well, different compounds and chemicals in the body, and just basically it helps in production of glycogen as well, to help keeping us functioning nominally. And so I don't want to, like what I'm talking about right now, I don't want to project my experience with sugar addiction onto like all desserts. Like saying that, oh, all desserts have no good benefit for you, just cut them out entirely, they're complete crap. Well, yes, there are many that are, but it also helps people to relax, and it also is just fun to eat certain sweets. we do enjoy indulging in the taste of it, and in moderation it can actually be good, and it could also maybe, again, help people feel more relaxed, more comfortable. Some studies as well saying sugar can actually increase certain things, feelings of, well, romantic passion actually, and also creative thinking. Same even goes with certain drugs as well. Marijuana, the same, can increase creative productivity and just actually can, in certain regards, in certain doses, heighten critical thinking, and actually is good for pain management, which has been proven very much that it can be very good for joint pain and also muscular aches. So that is benefit of marijuana. Same with certain other drugs, can also help with pain, and not psychological pain I'm talking about physical pain. And also, again, potentially increase productivity and relaxation, and also creativity in thinking. But that being said, again, there's also the bad side, going too far with it, or some people unfortunately develop more of a desire towards it, to where they need more and more stimulation from it, where it can cause sluggish, lethargic behavior, severe, depending on the drug, muscular deterioration, weakness, fatigue, severe dependency, basically, and it can just cause a whole load of debilitating issues as well when it becomes to the point of addiction. And again, same goes for pornography, masturbation addiction, which also exists, sex addiction, which I want to preface again, not everyone is going to become addicted to these substances. And video game addiction as well, like I mentioned, that can be crippling to people as well. And actually, again, I said in the World in 18 Minutes skit that I did, Iran actually, I think, has the largest number of video game addicts, at least last I checked. But anyway, so going forward, when I mention about my sugar addiction, I don't want to project it. And I also, this is another thing that I really, this is what I'm saying, I really feel that this is a problem with a lot of people in the world too. A lot of people, it's the same thing with like projecting harsh trauma onto others because of experiences you've gone through. Now, obviously, some amount of projection of trauma, this is again with the contradictory part to me. It is, I guess, needed for you, A, to get help and talk about what's going on, or if someone is causing you trauma, you then have to basically tell them what they're doing, which is kind of projecting your own trauma back onto them, saying, hey, you're causing this amount of trauma to me, you stop, please. So that's an iffy ground there, but I'm just saying that I think a lot of people, especially for addiction, especially with certain realms of addiction, like I talk about with sex work and porn addiction or sex addiction, I think that one, especially in the modern age, because there's a lot more coming out about it, is so one way. Like, it's never just an acknowledgement of both potentialities of good and bad. At least for the most part. One of my favorite, well, right now my favorite YouTube psychiatrist, Dr. K, Healthy Gamer GG, has done many great videos on pornography and video game addiction. But the thing is, how am I going to word this? It's so, and this even goes for things like politics and all that sort, beliefs. It's so one way to a point where no one can acknowledge if the other realm is right too. Like, it's just, I don't like this whole one way or the highway method of porn is terrible for you, it's destructive, it'll destroy your social relations. And then on the other side, it's no, porn is completely great, it empowers the sexes, it causes relaxation, decrease in crime, all that. Both are, well, not entirely true. I'm using more extreme examples, but there are aspects of both that are true. Very true. So, I don't know I don't like the whole one-way argument when it comes to addiction of anything. And that's what I'm saying with I don't want to project with sugar addiction. I don't want to say cut out all sugar in your life. You are able to, I know I am in the rare case where, unfortunately, I have become addicted to it. There are people who are able to handle their sugar intake and not, depend upon it. So, I'm not going to project with that, or at least try not to project with that going forward in videos, like when I talk about it. But okay, it's 3:11, and it's about to go past an hour. Anything else I should talk about? Maybe I'll briefly mention it here on the relation to, well, because I felt like actually kind of mentioning it in the skit that I made, but didn't end up doing it. Because I thought about, when I rewatched my Peterborough videos, I talked about sex work again, because again, it relates to one of my desired careers. And I talked about how there are some people who really severely fetishize the actors in the industry, which I don't like. But I'm starting to think for terms like that, when I talk about things like overzealous of sex and things like that in society, considering the profession I want to go into, I don't think that would probably be the right word. I think the word I'm more so looking for is, okay, I generally do think there are things that are probably should definitely not, well, there are things that are definitely, in my opinion, should not be sexualized or fetishized, for the most part at least. But when it comes to things that are fine being sexualized or fetishized, I think I'm more so, in most cases, I think I have a problem with over fetishization and over sexualization. Because I don't have a problem with many things being just inherently sexual in nature, or depicting a fetish of some kind, or fetishizing something in a certain way. My problem is when it becomes the overbearing amount of it, basically over fetishization and over sexualization, which there is in the industry of pornography, can be very prominent, of over sexualization, over fetishization in mainstream pornography, which I really hate, or really don't like. Not saying anything about the directors or writers as people, or the actors, even though I don't like the art they've created. I don't know anything about them, and I know people often like to jump on the idea of just, well, they like to, yes, an art form can be very a terrible depiction and representation of something. It is possible. There's bountiful, terrible depictions of many different demographics of people in medium, but I don't like saying stuff about the artists themselves. My phone is really dying. I don't like saying stuff about the artists themselves unless I actually know more about them, like through interviews and things like that. So I criticize the art. But anyway, so I have a problem more so, I guess, when I was talking about relating to my Peterborough videos and the sex work industry, and I meant to say, I guess I should have been saying over fetishization of people in the industry of sex work. And there is also over sexualization, that there's a lot of over sexualization in a lot of the Western world, and in many regards, Eastern world. Japan is, wow. There's far too much over sexualization in Japanese society, in my opinion. And again, that's not me knocking the entirety of Japanese culture. There are many great things about Japanese culture. I'm just saying there's also a lot of encroaching. Like, one thing that I really hate, especially relating to capitalism, is, or more so commercialism and capitalism, is the unnecessary use of, or the obvious use of, like, sexuality to promote a product when it's clear that they don't care about the depiction of sexuality at all, like the business. There's a, like, outside of the place that I work right now, there's a sports store that's now closed for the season. But they sell women's swimsuits, or feminine swimsuits as well, I should say. And they have a poster outside of this very beautiful model posing in a more sensual way with wearing a very small bikini. And I think it's a great photo. I genuinely think it is very beautiful. But my problem is why I consider that over sexualization is really because it's so clearly just done to sell a product with no care for the actual depiction of like the sensualism of it, if you know what I mean. It's so clearly just done to promote their swimwear line. Like, and same goes, it's like with the whole rainbow capitalism thing where so many corporations, yeah, it's good that there is further representation and inclusion of LGBTQ plus demographics in like fashion design and just standard attire, like in many cultures around the world now, especially, or at least what are more predominantly like European now and North American cultures and South American too. Though there were many depictions of homosexuality and transgenderism and gender fluency and things of the sort in Eastern culture and African culture too, and also South American and Central American. But anyway, and in the indigenous cultures of North America. But I'm just like current modern societal like depictions after colonialism and imperialism, that sort of thing. But the problem is, it's so obviously most often done just to sell a product. Like literally, June 1st comes for Pride Month. Shelves are stocked with rainbow themed fucking pants, shirts, bisexual flag, swimwear, a pansexual flag, pins, fucking, scoliosexual, design hoodies, non-binary, other t-shirts, just a whole bunch of just apparel for, themes of LGBTQ plus pride, but then the fucking minute the month is over, it's just, most of their selection is gone. And it's the same thing for like, with Black History Month and all that. Now I can get into my whole thing with like I've changed my opinion somewhat on like having specific months for celebrating different groups of people. Yes, I do think it's good, but I think it's good, but I really wish that it was just included, it was always recognized. But anyway, corporations would do the same thing for Black History Month, or here in Canada it would be Day of or Orange Shirt Day, I guess they would call it in schools, but are like Day of Reconciliation for the horrific atrocities of the residential schools and the indigenous cultures. They'll do the same thing, like orange cladded shirts, and a lot of companies will, for Black History Month, will bring on like influences of Pan-Africanism or African universalism, like elements into their designs. And then like the minute or many West African cultures, or East African too, like from traditionalist designs that were used by many of the indigenous tribes of the areas and regions. But then the minute the month is done, it's just, they're like put into the back shelves, like away from the public eyes. You can find them probably more so now, and pay for them, but just, they're not at the forefront anymore. And I'm not saying it should be ahead of like every other, it should be at the forefront of every other design. Like I'm just saying it's so obvious that like they put it at like the foremost during only that specific time, and then whoosh, it's gone like the minute it's over. It's just like severely performative. Yeah, that was my rant about that. So, well, actually, before my phone dies, how much does it have left? Oh my god, 3%. Why don't I show you the books I've been reading in a bit more depth as well? I showed them last night, I know, but it was dying, my phone was running out of storage, and, well, didn't really get much of a chance to talk more in depth about it. So yeah, I'll just bring them over. Why not? I'll grab the rest in a sec. So I already just quickly went over most of them. I really wanted to read this one. The history and culture of like the influences of Islam in Arabia and a lot of Northern Africa. It was really freaking interesting. It has a lot of really well done, like historically documented photos of historical landmarks, and also artistry that had been done in, well, what would be considered, I guess, the golden age of Islam during a lot of like discoveries for scientific discovery in astrology and astronomy. But yeah, I never got to read it because, well, time ran out. Great book involving the residential school system, about a child being taken from the reserve where their father and mother, well, had a small shop that sold different traditionalist or different indigenous traditional products, and it details their experience with a very, very abusive nun. The art is incredible. It's really well done. It's called I Am Not a Number, and it's written by Jenny K. DePuce and Kathy Kaser, I believe that's how you say it. The illustrations are by Gillian Newland. So yeah. God Delusion. Talked about it somewhat. Yeah, it's still going. Again, I've only started it. Really liking the description so far. I'm not so much so on like the whole. I've looked into more of Richard Dawkins as well, not just from this book. I knew about him beforehand because I knew this is literally like the atheist and anti-atheist holy book. But again, I'm strict on religion, yes, as I've said in these videos, but not as strict, I would say, as more hard on atheists or standardized atheists and anti-atheists. Well, anti-atheism literally calls for the dismantlement of religious organizations outright. And so I don't really like his stance on the whole I will convert you from whatever religious belief you are to being an atheist. That's a little bit of a intellectual complex, it seems, on his part, and a bit more narcissistic, but makes a lot of really good points in the opening. He does believe that religion is a mass psychosis, pretty much, which in many regards I would definitely agree with him on that, but not to the point of a psychotic disorder, obviously, or at least logically, I'll say again. The Lost Secret of Death. Again, I've heard that this is pretty much the holy book for my spiritual belief of agnostic atheism, or technically, I guess, more so as well, agnosticism just in general. Basically, it's supposed to, I guess, to describe the possibility of, a former psychologist, didn't know that. Possibility of parallel dimensions as well, and other methods of our consciousness potentially existing on past our physical form. Potentially. Again, it's not, from what I've heard, it's not like there is an afterlife. So, yeah. Would have liked to start reading it. Maybe I can find a copy in Ottawa. Amish Wit and Wisdom. This is really fucking good. This is probably the best book out of all these, the ones that I read, let's see if I can get a better image of it, that I've read so far. How much charge do you have left? 1%, you're gonna die. Yeah, so really good. It's just a lot of the quips from the ideologies of, well, different Amish demographics. Really damn good. Then the most obvious one that I showed quickly, but I'll show now more so, is the Holy Bible, the Revised Standard Version, and I only got through the introduction right now. Pretty much it's just detailing why they had to revise it so many fucking times, because this book is so full of fucking problems, and just riddled with story plot holes making no sense that they just had to redo it so many friggin' times. But it is very interesting so far. Very interesting. And I also said, oh, well, that piece just ripped off. Sorry, Norwood Public Library. The Quran. I already talked about this a bit more. Again, more of the introduction. Out of all the major ones I've read so far, like the major religious holy books, this has been the best one so far. I really am loving the first half of the Quran. Definitely not what I was fully expecting. And I think there's a lot of stigma towards it. There is still problematic stuff in the first half that I've read, but really good. Talked about it before in the last video. And I also talked about how I read the Kabbalah, or at least the first half of it, that conspiracy book here, and the last two I had, or last ones that I had, was were the Buddhist book. I don't know where I put it. There it is. The Essence of Buddhism, and my phone died. That's great. So I just got back from work. It was a pretty good day. Psychosomatic symptoms, or hopefully the psychosomatic still this time, still bothering me a bit, but other than that I'm fine. Ironically, the exact same thing happened as what happened at the end of the last video, where my phone last time my phone ran out of storage before I could show you all the books, and this time it died, but whatever, you got the gist of what I was saying. I also, at the end of this video, I'm just gonna throw together, at this video, I said I was gonna, at the last one or the one before it, throw in the clips of me on the last day with Timmi, and also last day with, well, not the last day, but a video I took with Trudy, as like a goodbye send-off, even though it was before the opening video of me coming back from Lakefield on the first part of this little series, I guess. I filmed what will be at the end of this before that, what it was at the beginning of that video, of me riding back to the cottage. Yeah, so I'm also as well going to just throw in some clips, a clip of a river otter that I saw while filming at the Warsaw Caves for the Motion Liminal Space videos. And also just a clip of when I was at a store, and why do I keep, fuck it, why do I keep alluding to like what the company is? Walmart. When I was at Walmart, stupid mega corporation, of a ridiculous price that I saw, like, that didn't make sense to me. I'll let the video explain itself, because I think it's pretty obvious. Also, I should mention the fact being, I didn't get to talk about very much the incident in that first video that I showed the clip of me when I came back from the city of Peterborough on my side-by-side, and I got pulled over that time by police as well. So that was, I'll mention, that wasn't the time that I talked about in this video, about 2 months ago when I got pulled over and fined. That was 2 weeks prior to that incident, and it was at the pitch dark of night. I was coming across a bridge, and I pulled over to the side to let the car go by, and it just so happened to be a cop, and they pulled over and like, what are you doing? All that. They were overly aggressive and domineering, much worse than the other two cops. And I just said I'm transporting this stuff up towards to where I'm staying at. They said the name of the village, don't really want to yet. So yeah, but they didn't find me, and then they just fucked off, and they completely wasted my time. They said they were going to escort me to a certain road so then I could get going, and then they just zoomed off. So, moron. But yeah, so that was what happened on that day. Going into Peterborough, it was long and exhausting, and I went there to get necessities for my side-by-side, specifically mirrors attached to it, And I got a wagon initially from that, but it broke, and well, that's another story for when I'll show you when I get going and hopefully have the other new cart assembled. Yeah, so I'll see you guys on the last day of me being here. And it'll be off to Ottawa then. Don't know what'll happen. But again, thanks for 100 subscribers at this point. Thank you for coming with me. Yeah. Let's hope I don't die. You know, for as far as shitty corporate decisions can go, even this baffles me. Okay, gonna maybe make my talking bit of this quick. By the time you're seeing this part of the recorded footage, it's probably well a ways after me recording the last video, because I said I was just taking some time off for myself. Bottom line is, Timmi isn't doing well. Their frame, well, not their frame, but their engine, their tank, all their other bits, their exhaust chamber, their bolts, can't tell I'm on a side road in the middle of nowhere, is all, that's not doing well. Tank's leaking again, okay, and my phone is dying. He may look fine, but I can assure you he's not. This, here, looks fine attached. Not exactly. Not a chance in hell. That snapped off as well. And as you can see, it's like it's dripping. It's quite a lot more vigorous and violent than before. Its wheel at the front is starting to get flat as well, or at least starting to, I think, damage the trim like before with the last one. And here comes another car. I hope this jackass doesn't honk at me because I'm on the shoulder and there's ample room. But, yeah, I'm not in the greatest mood. But you were a good soldier, Timmi. I'll give you away, possibly, or have to... Basically, it's time for Timmi to grow up. Unfortunately, time to leave the nest of my trials with him. Yep, look at all that. I may be getting a golf cart. Actually, I might have to invest in it. It's going to cost me a small fortune, much more than Timmi here. I'll explain more of that if I'm making a video attached to this, along with a scary experience that I had. Scariest of my life, or at least on par with the kidnapping. But you know what? He won't go out in shame. And actually, the reason it's so dysfunctional, why I was keeping him operating well enough, but in there, this exhaust chamber connects to the engine. And specifically, either the nephew of the dealer or the dealer themselves, I forget, told me that if gas gets in there is a horrible thing, because, well, the softest way they could put it, I would pretty well be a active hand grenade on wheels. So, this isn't safe or smart, but I still have to ride it as some transport. And it's going to get me to where I need to go quicker, so... Timmi, let's have one more blaze of glory until we see the last of you. I wish you well on wherever you end up. You are my dearest child.
The channel barely knew you, but I knew you a lot longer than I showed everyone else on here. Just have one more quick look before I ride them. Good work, soldier. Okay. Well, I'm gonna slap this on the end or whatever. I'm gonna put it in with another video, like edit it, cut it in this little portion here with another video at some point in the future. So what the video that will be coming before this one, or whatever I post on, like however this comes, like this clip, whether it's its own video or spliced together with another one, it will be after a video of me swimming in the lake, and it'll also be quite a ways after, like quite a lot of time after that after I recorded it. Sorry, I'm having speech issues, psychosomatic speech issues. Is great because they're kicking in right now. Right now, I'll state long story short. I quit my job, the second job that I took up where I am. I will have said that I got a job in the last video, and I said I'll specifically say not all the employees, but the employers. I generally labeled it that they were all nice enough people. Well, I misjudged them. That's my fault. I feel like an idiot for that. Old style looking car. I judged them way too quick, and also my phone's dying. So yeah, I'll talk more about that probably in whatever video this is spliced together with, or at just fucking, I don't know, later date, something. But I quit that job, so that now makes in the last few months 2 jobs that I've quit. But then again, the first one I had held for 2 years. So and secondly, the third job that I have had secondly the third job I've had, the second one where I've been employed. But yeah, I quit it because whoa, it's the middle of nowhere again, not entirely dead road. But I'll talk more about that later. But now, since I'm going to be trying to get another type of vehicle, possibly an ATV of some kind or a side-by-side for transport. I'll explain more of that a bit, or whenever. I should probably do a send-off video for my electric golf cart that I got. Her name is Trudy, and yeah, I'm going to have to give her away because yeah, really a lot of traffic on this open country road. Her name's Trudy. Let me go over to the side that she's actually on. And yeah, she's becoming very inconvenient. I'll explain more on why, but basically it has to do with I keep running out of charge. I've made her last at least 4 hours before, when electric golf carts are really only supposed to last an hour and 6 minutes roughly. Don't know why it's that completely exact, but where that estimate came from, but whatever. So yeah, this is sir. It says slow moving vehicle on it because the dealer told me that seeing as these aren't technically supposed to be on these roads, and considering the fact that I don't have a license to drive them, which right now logically I don't agree that you should have a license for this. I don't even know if for certain things I agree with having a license for anything, but I don't know. But a small vehicle like this, or a vehicle that can go on the side, or can't accelerate to a very fast speed, I think it's fine. It says, "It's my own damn fault" on the back. Yeah, that speaks to a lot of things that I've done recently. I hooked up some lice. That wouldn't be great. Light systems here from my bike, from Timmi, to her. And yeah, it's a margarita. It's another branded vehicle. I seem to have a string of luck with fucking corporate capitalist branded automotive merchandise. Fucking, and yep, Trudy's toy on it. It was the cheapest one I could find. Yeah, whatever. Another light here, rigged it up, works well enough. My phone's dying, hold on. So yeah, we're gonna test her out driving with the very little battery that I have. Quick send off, Trudy, we didn't know you well, but you were you were good for what you were. Okay, let's go. And I didn't have anyone truly teach me how to drive this. The dealer kind of showed me. Props to them. So, but yeah, I'm gonna try and sell her, like, for possibly a bit more than what I paid, but they told me that she should be worth more in value than what I, after a while, after even like a few days, because of, well, economic recessions and all that all over the world, and the global market just being fucked because of things happening in Eastern Europe right now and other issues. But yeah, I just kind of self-taught myself, just like I got used to Timmi, but the dealer of that taught me, well, the bike dealer taught me how to drive him. So yeah, brake systems are there. There's an automatic safety brake there. My foot's on the accelerator there. There's the battery.